Hello and welcome back once again to the Wrestling Rant. It is time for the SmackDown rant, or whatever the fuck. This was the June 21st, 2013 episode of SmackDown, which came from Dayton, Ohio, right there in my neck of the woods. The show starts off with another recap of Payback. I believe it was pretty much the same one as they played on Raw. But after that, Daniel Bryan comes out, and he gets in the ring, and he gets a mic, and he starts talking. Now, this whole thing, again from Raw, we saw him and Randy Orton fighting, and there was a referee stoppage because they thought Bryan was hurt. Didn't really look like it, but, you know, whatever. So he's talking about that. And I think he was basically saying that he wanted another match against Randy, and this time he was going to prove that he could beat him. And so, of course, out comes Randy. And Randy comes out and he talks, and he starts saying, well, he did make mention of the fact that he wasn't really trying to hurt Bryan in their match, even though it was no DQ and all that. He still wasn't really trying to hurt him. Especially because of the way that Bryan kept going, you know, even when it looked bad for him and all this other stuff, Randy said that, you know what, he actually has some respect for Bryan after that. And I'm like, well, okay, good, you know, that's great. But anyways, the promo takes a dark turn, essentially, because Bryan's still pissed that what Randy did after the match, helping him up, and basically patting him on the head and, you know, treating him like a kid, essentially, is what he was saying. Huh. But yeah, so he was mad at Randy for treating him like a kid or something, and so Bryan's still mad, and so basically what he says is, I'm going to take that, you know, fake respect that Randy supposedly had for him, because he didn't buy it. So he said, I'm going to take that respect and I'm going to shove it down your throat. And so, essentially, that just basically sets up a match between these two for later on. So, oh yeah, well, before that, Randy starts talking again, and he says, if that's the way you want it, fine, we can have another match, but this time, I'm not going to hold back. I'm going to try and hurt you this time. You know. And so that's basically how the whole segment ends, is he says that, and then, he walks off. So that segment ends, and then they say that in a little bit we're going to have Wade Barrett and Curtis Axel in the rematch for the Intercontinental title, the match that was supposed to happen on Raw, but ended up getting changed because Vicky wanted to have Christian come back, and so he went against Barrett, and yada yada. But anyways, we're going to have Wade and Axel in a little bit for the Intercontinental title. And that's in a little bit. But before that, they do the little hype thing for that, and then they cut back into the arena, and Sheamus is coming out once again. So Sheamus comes out, he gets in the ring, they cut to commercial. And I'm thinking, okay, well great, who's he burying this time? We come back from commercial, and I think they came back from commercial, and Cody was already in the ring. I think Cody was coming down to the ring with Sandow. What the fuck? Take the damn notes. Okay, great. So anyways, yeah, so Cody's already in the ring and Sandow's there too. Okay, so anyways, Rhodes is already in the ring and Sandow's on the outside. Again, boring match pretty much. There's some back and forth action. Sheamus again goes for his clubbing thing that he does, but Cody is able to counter it. And he slips down to the outside of the ring, and as Sheamus comes out onto the apron to try and come after him, Cody uses the ring apron to trip Sheamus. So Sheamus takes a nasty spill from the looks of it. He falls to the outside of the ring. And then Cody picks him up, puts him against the post. Or not right up against it, but kind of next to it. And then he takes Sheamus's arm and bangs it up against the post. So he starts working the arm, and that becomes a big thing in the match. But in any event, he does that. I think they go back into the ring, but then they spill out again. And Cody runs Sheamus up against the barricade.
Hello.
So yeah, so he does that. And Cody spends a while working the arm. Oh, right. He's working the arm. And then Sheamus winds up out on the apron again. And he goes for his little kind of springboard shoulder tackle that he does. He goes for that, but Cody counters it and locks. He essentially, as Sheamus is coming in with the shoulder tackle, Cody kind of sidesteps it and grabs Sheamus's arm in midair, takes him down, and gets him in like an arm bar. So he's doing that. He's still working the arm, of course. Sheamus is able to get out of it, and he starts making a comeback. Sandow on the outside tries to get involved, but Sheamus, I think Sandow gets up on the apron. Sheamus turns around and sees him and clocks him one. So he knocks him down once. And then he grabs Cody and swings him around, and as he comes back, Sandow's on the apron again, so he throws Cody shoulder first into Damien, which knocks Sandow down again. And then I think what happened was Cody went for a sunset flip, but Sheamus rolled through and grabbed Cody's legs, and he's done this before. He locks him in the Texas Cloverleaf. And he locks him in the Texas Cloverleaf, and Cody just immediately taps out like a bitch. And right when I saw it, I was mad, because it's like, if you're going to use a submission like this, and I've brought this up before, if you're going to use a submission like this, you need to at least work the body part that the submission affects. Because if say you're going to lock in an arm submission, unless you work on that arm beforehand, you can lock the submission in, it's not necessarily going to work right away. It's bad ring psychology is what it is. And it's one of the things I'm really starting to hate about the WWE, is they have no fucking ring psychology. You have people tapping out to submissions all the time when you're not working on the body part in question. Like I said, he locks in a Texas Cloverleaf. He hadn't worked on Cody's back or his legs at all. So even with it in, he shouldn't have tapped out right away. I suppose if he had kept the move locked in for a while and Sheamus was doing his best to keep him away from the ropes so he couldn't get a rope break. If, he had kept him in it for a few seconds, for at least 15, 20 seconds or so, and there was no hope of him getting out, I suppose then he could have tapped. But Cody just tapped out immediately. Made him look like a huge bitch. And, I mean, he is, but, Christ, you could at least put up a little fight. But anyways, so Sheamus wins by submission, whatever the fuck. And let's see, as he's winning, before he even breaks the hold, Sheamus wins, they ring the bell, but before he even breaks the hold, Sandow comes in from out of nowhere and just running kicks Sheamus right in the back of the head and knocks him the hell over, and he gets on top of him and starts just wailing on him. Just raining down bombs, just wailing on him. And so he's beating the hell out of Sheamus. And, whatever the fuck. He stops, and he gets out of the ring with Cody. Cody, by the way, is laid out this whole time. It's not like he got hit with the brogue kick, so I don't see why. But Cody's out this whole time. But he gets up finally, and Sandow helps him, and they leave. And they kind of show Sheamus he's hurt, from taking an ass whipping like that. But anyways, they cut to the commentators, and they say, oh yeah, here's the Wyatt family again. So we show another damn Wyatt family video. They show that, and then, Curtis Axel comes out with Heyman, of course. And he gets in the ring, and then they cut to a commercial. And they come back, and Barrett is coming out, and it's time for the Intercontinental title match. And The Miz is on commentary once again for this. And so, yeah, so he's on commentary again, The Miz is. And, so he's talking a lot of the time. Again, this is a Wade Barrett match, and on top of that, it's a Curtis Axel match, so I really couldn't give a fuck. The little bit of notes that I took here is there's some back and forth action in the beginning. Barrett gets up on the second rope. This is actually the finish of the match, so again, that just shows you how little notes I took for this crap. But Barrett goes up to the second rope and goes for an elbow drop, but he misses. Axel rolls out of the way or whatever. And after he misses, Barrett misses, he's kind of sitting there, just sitting in the middle of the ring. So Axel gets up, hits the ropes, and does the Mr. Perfect neck whip thing. And so he hits that, and then as Barrett is getting up after that, Axel comes running over, hits the McGillicudder, and he gets the win. So, Barrett's pretty much off and buried, I mean. So, yeah, so he's pretty much gone. Yeah. Don't know how he's really going to recover after this. I don't really care if he does or not. I don't like him, but whatever. So anyways, oh yes, after the match, Barrett decides to fuck off, and Axel's standing there in the ring with Heyman, and The Miz gets off the commentary desk, and he gets on the apron, and he gets in the ring, and he basically starts staring down with Axel. And Miz is wearing, of course, his nice outfit, like he does, because he's kind of the sharp-dressed man kind of thing. He takes off his blazer, jacket, whatever you want to call it. He starts loosening up his dress shirt. He's like, you want to go? You want to go? And he essentially he stares down Axel, and Heyman gets in between them to stop. He just backs Axel down, and they leave. So Miz is left in the ring. Whatever the fuck. After that, they start showing a little hype thing. They're saying, up next, we're going to do this thing for Mark Henry, and it's this little thing called Blindsided, and it's in reference to what he did to Cena on Raw, you know. He made it look like he was getting ready to retire, and then he decided to just beat the hell out of Cena instead. And we get to that. So we're hyping that up. They cut to commercial, and then of course they come back and they play the this stupid video of Mark Henry and all this other shit. And after that, AJ's music hits, and she comes out with Big E, and they cut to commercial. Oh yeah, that's weird. They had 2 commercials really back to back. I'm not really sure. Either way, they come back, and Natalya is already in the ring. So it's going to be AJ versus Natalya. And guess who wins? Like, seriously, just guess. We're not going to have our Divas champion lose to somebody, especially somebody she's not feuding with, like Caitlyn. And speaking of Caitlyn, they bring her up. But they start having a match. Natalya is aggressive in the early going. She's, of course, one of the faces, so she's pissed at AJ using such dirty tactics to beat Caitlyn. And I just don't understand this. It's like, you're mad at a heel for being a heel. It's like when Cena was pissed at, who was it, Del Rio or whatever, for using the Money in the Bank thing. It's like, oh yeah, you're going to be mad at me for doing something that anybody else would do. Yeah, whatever. So anyways, Natalya's aggressive. And, oh yeah, she gets AJ down on the ground, face down. And it's looking like she's going to go for a surfboard. But she turns it around and does it the other way. Where she gets her legs bent backwards, and then her feet bent around Natalya's legs. And then she rolls her over on her back, and they're both kind of laying on their backs, and Natalya's grabbing AJ's arms and wrenching him. I have no idea what this move is called, but I have seen it before. I think Natalya has used it a couple of times. But she does this interesting submission, and then they cut to a commercial again. I'm not sure about these quick commercials. But they come back, and I think AJ's turned it around. She gets the Black Widow locked in on Natalya, and Natalya taps out, so AJ wins. And I forgot to mention this, but during the match, they had cut backstage to Caitlyn and Layla, who were watching backstage on a monitor. And after the match, they cut back again to show them watching in disappointment, and Oksana comes up, and because of her Lithuanian accent, I can't really tell what exactly she says, but she essentially makes mention of what AJ had been saying to Caitlyn, which is, you're just trash or whatever. But she says that Caitlyn's trash, and then she thinks she's just going to walk away after that, which, yeah, that's not going to happen. As she's trying to walk away, Caitlyn just goes crazy. Caitlyn goes crazy, attacks her, beats the hell out of her, and a bunch of the other divas come out and they break it up, and Oksana runs off. I figure Oksana would have learned after it was, I think, last week on SmackDown was when Caitlyn went apeshit on her then, because Oksana was laughing at her. I don't know if Oksana just likes to stir shit up. She is kind of a bitch, so I mean, that's just her character, but maybe she's just a glutton for punishment, I don't know. But she didn't seem to learn after getting her ass kicked last week, so don't know what to make of that. But, anyways, so, oh yeah, after that they cut back out to the arena and Jericho comes out. And after he comes out, they show a recap of the whole promo between Bryan and Orton from earlier. And after that, Lillian introduces Ricardo Rodriguez, and Ricardo gets out on the stage and he introduces Del Rio. And normally how the people would be, like Ricardo goes, Alberto, he really holds the O. Normally when he does that, the people would sing along with him and they'd hold the O too. But this time, nothing. Now that Del Rio's a heel, they don't want anything to do with him. So they're dead quiet during this. And then Del Rio comes out and they start booing him. And it's at this point that they recap Ziggler attacking Del Rio from Raw at the end of Raw. And they showed the recap, and I didn't notice this on Raw. I was probably taking notes. But when they showed it, Del Rio and Ricardo were kind of backing off to the side of the stage. And Ziggler came flying from off the stage, and he just dove on top of Del Rio and just raging. He was pissed. And that comes back up in a minute. After that, Jericho and Del Rio, they're having their match. Just some minor notes. Oh yeah. Del Rio had Jericho on the, throated on the middle rope, and he went for that. Del Rio does this all the time. He goes to sit on them when they're throated on the ropes, but the guy always moves out of the way, and Del Rio flies out to the outside. Well, he does it this time, and it looks like he tweaks his leg, or his knee. And as he's getting back in the ring, Jericho hits his big springboard triangle dropkick thing. He does that, and then, so Del Rio's still on the outside. And then he basically does like a baseball slide, but it's not really like a baseball slide. It's a... He just kind of dives through the ropes feet first and drop kicks him, but that's it. He doesn't go through the ropes completely. After that, they cut to another commercial, and they come back, and Jericho goes to, I think, shoulder ram Del Rio in the corner, but Del Rio gets out of the way, and Jericho hits the corner, the post. They go, I think Del Rio grabs him, throws him outside, and then Del Rio goes out with him, and... Or no. What happened was Jericho went to kind of do like a stinger splash in the corner, but Del Rio got out of the way, and Jericho just fell out of the ring like that. And then they go outside. Oh yeah, and it was Del Rio. They come back inside the ring, and Del Rio goes to shoulder charge Jericho in the corner, but Jericho gets out of the way, and Del Rio hits the post. And I think at that point, Jericho went up to the top rope, and he hits double axe handle from the top. He goes for the walls of Jericho, but it's countered. Del Rio's pissed, so he starts headbutting Jericho. Again, he's doing like these concussion, headshots. This is going to be his gimmick now. He wants to start giving people concussions. And I think that's supposed to be the story here. Anyways, after that, Jericho's in the corner, and Del Rio goes for his corner enziguri thing, but Jericho gets out of the way, and so he misses. Jericho goes up top again, goes for a crossbody, he hits it, and then he gets the lion salt. There's some countering back and forth. Del Rio gets the cross arm breaker locked in, but Jericho counters out of it, goes for the walls. He gets the walls locked in on Del Rio, but Ricardo gets up on the apron and just jumping on the ropes, so Jericho breaks the hold, goes over and grabs Ricardo and clocks him, and then he locks Ricardo in the lion tamer. And while this is going on, Jericho has Ricardo in the lion tamer. Ziggler comes out of nowhere and attacks Del Rio again. And he chases Del Rio off, and Ricardo runs off with Del Rio. And afterwards, Jericho's kind of pissed. He's like, hey, what the fuck, man? You cost me the match, because of course that caused a DQ. So Del Rio won by DQ. But, Jericho's pissed. He's like, hey, what the fuck? Ziggler's kind of arguing with him, and he turns around to look at Del Rio. Jericho grabs him by the shoulder, swings him around, and code breakers him. Right in the face. And I'm like, what the fuck? The guy has, like, a concussion, or, they're scared of him getting a concussion, and Jericho's gonna go and smash his fucking head with a code breaker. What a dick move. And at this point, I'm like, well, fuck you too, Jericho, you bitch. Do you not want any of these young guys to get over? Are you just trying to hold people down? Now, of course, I know the whole thing was just a storyline, whatever the fuck, but it still seems pretty shady of Jericho to just blatantly headshot Ziggler like that when we're already scared of him having another concussion. But anyways, after that, Jericho leaves, and Del Rio's out in the crowd because him and Ricardo went out through the crowd. He sees what happens, and he's like, oh yeah. So he comes back. Del Rio goes back and gets in the ring, and he's getting ready to... Ricardo grabs Ziggler and holds him up, and he's holding him back. And it's looking like Del Rio's going to go for that low super kick, which is what won him the title at Payback. The referees come out and they're like, no. They're trying to break it up, and they're like, no. But it's looking like they're going to break it up, but then no. Del Rio jumps and he super kicks Ziggler in the face and knocks him out cold. And it's like, seriously, he is full-blown heel trying to just concuss Ziggler and probably Jericho and anybody else. They cut to a commercial, and they come back, and they do a replay of that. And then again, they're hyping up Bryan and Orton for later on. And they cut back into the arena, and the 3MB are in the ring. And they introduce, okay, Drew McIntyre is going to be wrestling. And I'm like, okay, they're letting McIntyre wrestle. That's cool, because that doesn't happen that often. I'm like, so who's he fighting? Christian's music hits. So Christian comes out, and he's going to have a match with McIntyre. They start going, and Christian's in control early, of course. Christian goes for a crossbody, I think from the middle rope or the top rope. And McIntyre catches him, swings him into that swinging side slam thing. Christian makes comeback. Slater gets on the apron, but Christian pops him in the face and nails him, knocks him down. And they were trying to distract Christian so that Drew could get like a cheap win or whatever. But it didn't work, as McIntyre tried to grab Christian from behind. He went for like a back suplex. Christian lands on his feet and grabs him for the kill switch. He nails it and gets the win. So Christian wins. They get a replay of it real quick. And then Christian asks for a mic, and he says, you know what, I'm glad to be back finally, and I'm glad to be back here on SmackDown. And he's talking, and he can't remember exactly what he says. But it doesn't really matter, because what ends up happening is he's talking, and the Shield music hits. And completely strangely, because, they normally don't do this, the Shield guys come from the ramp. Not from out of the crowd like they normally do. They come out through the ramp, like they came from the entranceway. But they come out, and they surround the ring. And, of course, it's the old thing. They get in the ring, they beat the fuck out of Christian. He's kind of fighting back, but, it's 3-on-1, so they overwhelm him. They beat him down. Excuse me. They beat him down, and they set him up, and they hit the triple power bomb. And that's all they wrote for that. So, no idea why they decided to do this, but I guess Christian will now be feuding with the Shield guys. Again, I'm not really sure why, but whatever, I guess. Again, they start hyping up another segment, which is going to be about Brock. And it's going to be called The Beast Unleashed. So they cut to commercial. And when they come back, They show some more stuff from Payback, Punk's return, and then his match against Del Rio from Raw. And afterwards, of course, they show Ziggler attacking, and then Brock comes out and F5s the bejesus out of Punk. And so whatever. They cut backstage to Paul Heyman, who is being interviewed by Renee Young. And she asks him, what's the story behind Brock attacking CM Punk? And Heyman basically says, me and Punk are friends, so I don't really want to get into personal stuff. And then he essentially turns the table on Renee, which this comes completely out of nowhere because Renee is, she's not a former wrestler, not in the WWE at least. All she's ever done really is been a backstage interviewer and maybe hosted the stupid panel on one of the pay-per-views. But Heyman starts bringing up her past. Something about her and her fiancé up, and something about why she hasn't been talking to her dad, and all these just weird things. And I'm like, where in the fuck does this come from, and what the hell does it have to do with anything? But I guess Heyman brings it back and he says, you don't want anybody mentioning that. So why do you want to stir things up and make me talk about my personal business with Punk? And again, I'm just like, I do not get this at all. I don't know what the hell. If you wanted to say, I don't want to bring up personal business, you could just say, don't have to bring up these things and just come off as a huge dick. But whatever, that's how it happened. I really don't get this. But anyways, they cut back to the arena, and Randy's coming out. And they cut to commercial. And when they come back, Bryan is already in the ring. So I'm thinking, oh great, this ain't good for Bryan. He's going to job. But apparently not. But they start having their match. And of course, this is kind of heated, so they're both really aggressive early. There's some more back and forth action, some countering back and forth. Oh yeah. They get, I think Randy... Yeah, Randy's on the apron. And he's trying to suplex Bryan out of the ring. And they're fighting with it. They're trying to... Bryan's trying to counter and whatever. But he can't. And essentially what happens is Randy does. He suplexes him out to the floor. And after that, they cut to another commercial. They come back. They're up on the top, and one of them's going for a superplex, but it gets countered. Oh, yeah. Randy was going to do a superplex on Bryan, but Bryan counters out of it, headbutts Randy, knocks him down, and then he does a nice missile front dropkick from the top. And he does that, and he starts making his comeback. After that, he nips up. He comes screaming across the ring, the big corner dropkick, because Randy ends up in the corner. He does the big corner drop kick. He starts doing the repeated kicks and the big roundhouse to the head. He only gets a 2 count after that. And I think Randy ends up in the corner again. Or no, it's repeated kicks in the corner. And then he goes, he wears him down with the kicks, and Randy ends up sitting down in the corner. And Bryan comes screaming across again with another drop kick in the corner. Bryan goes for his comeback combo, and he's doing it, but as he comes back to hit the big flying forearm shot, which is the end of it, Randy catches him and power slams him. But I don't know, I think Bryan got out of it, and he starts doing the kicking combo, the chest kicks, and then he hits the roundhouse kick. And after he does the roundhouse kick, he goes up to the top rope for the big flying headbutt. Or he goes up for it, but Randy catches him on the top rope, knocks him down, and he's finally able to do the big super duper superplex from the top rope. And then he hits the rope hung DDT, and it looks like he's going for the RKO, but so he's down, he's pounding on the mat. Bryan just slides out of the ring. And so Randy goes out after him. And he ends up doing the belly-to-back suplex thing that he did to Bryan on the barricade. This is what ended the match on Raw. He hits that on him, but no ending the match yet. After that, Randy grabs Bryan, throws him into the ring, but pulls him back like he's going to do the rope-hung DDT, but from the apron to the floor. Like Randy's really trying to hurt Bryan here. But Bryan gets out of it. He just pushes forward, lands on his feet, and shoves Randy into the barricade. And then he gets back up on the apron, comes charging, jumps off, and does that big flying knee that he does. He hits that. And then he does his big suicide dive, and he nails that. And they're both kind of wiped out after this. So the referee's counting, and he gets up to like 7 or 8, and Bryan rolls back in the ring. And so Bryan rolls back in the ring, and Randy wiped out, and Randy gets counted out. That's what happens. So Randy gets counted out, and so Bryan wins the match. But so Randy gets counted out, and Bryan wins, and they make the announcement that Bryan won, but he's mad. He don't like this. He doesn't like that he won by countout. So he's mad, and he goes outside. He grabs a mic, and he's like, "No, I don't want to win by countout. I'm gonna beat him." He looks at the ref and he says, "I want you to restart this match." And the referee's like, "No, you won." But Bryan's like, "Yes, yes, yes," and the crowd's chanting along, "Yes, yes," and it just keeps going like that. The referee's like, "No, no." That's how the show ends. So even though Bryan won, he wasn't happy winning by countout. So whatever the fuck. That's how the show ends. That was it. Randy was after the announcement that he lost, because he dove back into the ring right after the 10 count. So I'm sure he was kind of pissed that he lost by count out too. Can't blame you, you know. But anyway, so Randy was kind of slumped in the corner, and so again, like I said, he was kind of pissed that he lost, but I don't know. Maybe we're going to have another rematch on Raw. I really don't know. But that is how the show ended. Don't really know what else to say. Again, the whole submission thing with Cody and Sheamus. Work your damn psychology better than this. Have the guy work the limb for a submission if you're actually going to have him tap out. That was one thing I really remember from Bret Hart's matches back in the day. Is he would work people's legs. He would work their back when going for the sharpshooter. You know, he didn't just lock in the sharpshooter and have him tap out like a bitch. He would work them, you know. And it looked like Cody was working Sheamus's arm, like he went for the arm bar, so it's like, okay, that would have made more sense. But then they just turn around and Sheamus locks in the cloverleaf out of nowhere and Cody taps like a bitch. I don't get that, not in the slightest, but whatever the fuck. Yeah, so that stuff happened and it came and went, and I suppose you could also say the same thing for the match AJ and Natalya. AJ hadn't really worked Natalya's I don't even know what the hell all the Black Widow works on. She's wrenching the arm with one arm, and she's got like an octopus on them, and so she's really working the abdominals She hadn't really been like working the abdominals. In fact, for the most part, AJ was getting her ass kicked in this match. And so it essentially turned out to be a Cena victory, where you get your ass kicked for a couple of minutes, and then you make your comeback, you hit a couple of moves, and you win. AJ got the Black Widow locked in pretty much out of nowhere. And I guess what they're trying to this move is so complicated, it's like impossible to get out of. So, I don't know what the deal is there, but again, really weak psychology in these matches. I don't get it at all. And they're not really doing a good job of, again, the psychology. You gotta work psychology. You gotta have things make sense. Otherwise, they're pointless. They're not doing their job with that, and I don't think you can really blame the wrestlers because it's not really their fault. It's probably the road agents or the bookers or the writers who just ain't, doing what they're supposed to do to make these matches make sense. But whatever. That's how it went. Not really much else to say. We'll have to wait and see what happens on Raw. So that, I guess, will do it for this episode of the Wrestling Rant. Join us again next time for Raw. And we'll see you next time for Raw.